you're related to Devin.
That's right.
The Beast. Do you know he is like a god in arm wrestling?
Yeah, he's one of the best in the world, and even though he's my little brother, he's absolutely my big brother in some ways as well.
So you guys are brothers. Do you arm wrestle? Can you? I mean, is it?
I haven't arm wrestled since like arm wrestling like my grandmother at like age 9 probably.
Because when I was at his house, I saw a picture of him arm wrestling his grandma.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, so you don't have like the natural ability like he does?
I don't know if I have the natural ability, but I certainly haven't exploited it.
Now, I wanted to talk to you, put you on ARMTV because you have a very interesting life. You do something similar as ARMTV. You have a website that caters to an alternative society of the world. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, another big niche market, but this time it's body modification. So tattoos, piercings, scarification, implants, basically any change you can make to your body. That's what we cover.
How did you get? Obviously, I mean, I was never an arm wrestler, so that's not how I started. But your type of, you must have been into body modification personally before the website started.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you kind of get. I think some people get born into it. You know, you just kind of feel the drive to change yourself. But at the same time, my father won a tattoo in a wrestling match, not an arm wrestling match, but a wrestling match. And so when I was a kid, you know, I'm always showing all my friends, oh, here's my father's tattoo, won in a wrestling match. Check it out, isn't that neat? And I don't know, maybe it came from that too.
Your tongue is split. Let me see.
My tongue is split.
How did you evolve in? I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is not for everybody.
No.
Body modification is. I mean, it's not for everybody. Some people don't even have tattoos. But you guys, your website. Tell us your website.
It's bmezine.com. So bmezine.com. And it's giant. It's been around now for 12 years. We've got submissions from probably about 500,000 people. Millions of people view the site every day. It's a very, very, very big market.
Now, before Devin told me about Shannon Larratt, I didn't know that. I mean, I heard you can do things like this, but I mean, I'm a pretty boring guy when I don't have any tattoos, so I'm not really interested in that area. But I didn't realize that there was that big of a market for people who want to body modify.
Absolutely. I think, and that's why I think your comparison to ARMTV is very valid, because both arm wrestling and body modification are massive. I mean, there's tons of people around the world into it, but it's still very niche. And if you're not into it, you might not know anything about it. You might not even know it exists. But both of those things are exploding right now into the mainstream, and I think you're going to see big changes in both of them.
So body modification, I am sure, just like arm wrestling, you got part-timers and you got full-time professionals. Yeah. I'm sure there's a level of people who just a little bit of body mod, and then people will take it to the very extreme. Now, I was checking out to your site. There is some adult-orientated stuff that, you know, people should be aware of when they go in there. But I'm sure there's a range of extreme, how far you take it to just some simple tattoos to actually you have the ear piercing, the stretched earlobes. I see you have, I've never seen a white tattoo.
Yeah, I think it's because they're really hard to do. So tattoo artists like kind of discourage you because it's easy to contaminate. It's very hard to lay in even. So not many people are willing to do it. So
where would you say you were the originator of the site? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's my site.
That's your site. Yeah. How did?
But I should say that just like ARMTV, it is built with submissions from thousands of people all over the world.
Yeah. So where do you fall into the category as a personal body mod? Are you on the more extreme side? I don't see many people with white tattoos.
I don't really think of myself as super hardcore because I don't feel that what I'm doing and when I'm doing it is that weird. But yeah, it's probably on the more extreme end of what people are doing.
So people who are into body modification, besides your website, is there any way that they get together in person?
Sure. I mean, for people into tattoos, there's tattoo conventions all over the place that are very large. But for people into more fringe stuff, there's scarification conventions, suspension conventions, piercing events, all sorts of stuff.
Suspension? Can you explain to me what suspension is?
Suspension is literally taking large gauge fish hooks, taking the barb off of them, hooking them through the skin, and lifting yourself up, like in that movie, A Man Called Horse.
Have you done this yourself?
I've done it, I'll say, an inch. So when they tried to lift me, the hook tore out, and this is what it left me with. So I don't know if that counts as a suspension. Probably not.
Now, let me tell you, obviously, body modification isn't for everybody, and I'm sure there's a certain part of society that is a little turned off by it. I mean,
I'd say there's a large part of society.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an easygoing guy, and as being a camera videographer, I'm fascinated by all areas of society. So obviously, which is why I'm totally excited to talk to you and to let people know. But probably, maybe less than 1% of our ARMTV audience is going to go, hey, I want to check out body. I want to do that. But you know, it's interesting. This is a part of society that maybe not people know about. But how the person who's in body modification, what are you going through psychologically that says, I'm gonna do it. Isn't that painful? Isn't it scary?
You know, here's the thing. I mean, it is scary, but my feeling is like if you give a little kid markers, their first instinct isn't to draw on the wall. Their first instinct is to draw all over themselves. So I think that humans have this drive to decorate themselves. Some people, I guess, they don't get beaten up enough by society to drive it out of them. So when they're adults, they keep doing it. But yeah, no. Even if you know, oh, I really want this tattoo. Most people, it's still scary when they're sitting in that chair before the needle starts.
What do you do?
Nothing. Like, what do you do if you're scared?
Does it hurt?
Yeah, it hurts a lot.
You put the hook into your skin and
yeah, it does.
Fresh.
Yeah, it hurts, but it hurts less than exercise. I mean, to put it into context, you know, I mean, lots of things we do that we think are worth doing are very painful. You know.
So what about anesthesia?
Well, you wouldn't use anesthesia for a suspension ever because that would sort of you'd be missing the point, unless maybe you just wanted to do a show. But so anesthetic is often used during procedures that are more painful, like in an implant procedure or a tongue splitting or something.
Show me your tongue. Now, I gotta tell you, I've only seen that in pictures, and I mean, that to me is I can't imagine. Not because I would never do that to myself, but painful. I can't imagine how much that would hurt.
Well, in my case, it was done by a doctor under anesthesia, and so the procedure itself didn't hurt. But I'll tell you, having like 12 needles stuck lengthwise through your tongue to put the anesthesia in is terrible. One of the worst things ever. Like I really.
They stick through your tongue.
Well, because they do it. They try and do a nerve block at the back of your jaw. Nerve block didn't work on me. So then he's literally taking these syringes full, and he's like sticks it in the front of my tongue all the way to the back, starts injecting, and then draws it out. Does that like 12 times. It's terrible. It's really awful.
How much does something like this cost?
Back then, it cost me $375. It was cheap. But now, something that I would probably, if you were to go to a doctor, $3,000 or $4,000 probably.
Now, I noticed on your site there's some adult-orientated. There's for ARMTV audiences. This might get. I'm going to try to stay generically graphic, but is body modification? I noticed there's a genitalia modification.
For sure.
Is it a sexual thing, or is it still an art form thing?
No, it's, when you're talking genital modification, even nipple modification, stuff like that, people are doing it because it makes sex feel better. It's just that.
This is amazing. How do people find your site? Do they find your site because they're first into body modification already, or do they find your site and then they become interested in body modification?
I don't think you can make someone become interested in body modification, because I really believe you're basically born with that innate drive. All I can do is figure out a way to turn it on for them or remind them that they have it. But a lot of people come to the site already having that interest, and especially guys that are older, you know, that are into the genital stuff where they've never been able to share it with anyone. Some of these guys don't even tell their wives. They take their jewelry out anytime their wife might see it. You know, so, you know, say you're 60 years old, you spent your whole life thinking, wow, I'm the biggest freak in the world, no one out there is like me, I don't know why I'm doing this stuff. So they actually feel really, really good when they come to the site, because, wow, all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of other people like me into the same thing, people I can talk to.
So you
know?
feel more accepted.
Yeah,
Describe to me, obviously I don't just want to look at the good side. I'm interested and I'm always fascinated, but we touched on it already. Describe to me what, I mean, I know in society there's some people that just got to be like, man, you guys are, I'll just say crazy, but obviously I'm sure people have thrown other words out there that maybe more hurtful stuff. How does somebody who's in body modification, do they just have to become tough-skinned sometimes?
Yeah, to some extent, you just got to deal with it. But at the same time, society's becoming more progressive, and you'll go into a bank and you'll see a teller with an eyebrow ring. I mean, those are little things. But 10 years ago, there's no way that person could have got a job in that environment.
I've seen a lot of like just moms with a nose ring or a ear piercing. Now it's more simple, but that is a form of body modification.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, when you're talking about tattoos, the stigma on tattooing is dropped enough that normal people are getting tattoos on their forearms, on their hands, on their necks. Tattoos, they're not going away. So basically, we're starting to hit a critical mass where simply so many people have it done that it's just a non-issue.
What would you say your most creative form of body modification you've personally done that you're proud of? What's your one thing that stands out?
Well, I don't know in terms of something that I'm proud of, but my magnet implants, I like what they've done. I don't think we talked about those on tape.
No, tell me about that. Tell me what is this?
I have very small rare earth magnets coated in silicone implanted in my fingertips. So basically what that means is that if I enter a magnetic field, those magnets will vibrate very slightly, so the sensitive nerves in my fingertips pick up on it. So I can basically physically touch an electromagnetic field and perceive it almost like another sense.
So you go into a store and you can sense that there's...
If I go into a store, depending on what kind of security system they're using, I can tell if it's turned on or not. I can tell if power is running through a cord. I can tell if there's leaks from a transformer, if it's putting off a bigger field than it should.
So if you put your finger on this wire to the light, you could feel something?
The wire on the light I might not feel, but I would feel the neon for sure. It's got a big transformer on it. That thing I'm going to feel from 2 or 3 feet away.
You could actually put your hand there and feel something.
If I'm using my computer's a laptop, I can tell where the hard drive is just by sort of running my hand over, because I can feel the little engine vibrating inside it, and that's without even touching the keyboard. So.
Now, your audience, you said it ranges in the millions of people visiting.
Yeah.
What percentage is the hardcore? What percentage is just more moderate?
My site really, it doesn't draw much of a line between the hardcore and the light stuff, so most of the people it draws are at least open to the hardcore stuff, even if they're not into it personally. In terms of ones that are actively into it, I'll say 1 in 10. But I'm really guessing.
If you're into body modification, is it popular to just go all out and try all forms, or is there people that just kind of stick to one thing? And
a lot of people stick to one thing. I think
because I noticed you've got tattoos, you've got facial tattoos, you've got stretched earlobes, the tongue splitting. I mean, you've kind of dabbled in the different areas, right? Is that common or uncommon?
It really depends on the person. I mean, a lot of people, when they first get into it, want to try everything, because when you get into something new, you're excited about it. But I don't know. Well, what I sort of encourage is that people have an internal idea of who they want to be and where they want to take their body, and rather than just trying new things, they more try and move towards that goal,
So I'm going to wrap this up because I got some other things over there we got to concentrate on. But one more thing, I just want to ask you, I know that ARMTV has changed my life. It's introduced me to people that I would have never met before, traveling around the world. You are in a similar area. Tell me, what is body modification, your website, what has it done for you as far as what you've seen? And
well, at this point, there's very, very little difference between my life and the life of the site. It's really, honestly, everything that I am as a person, I try and pour into that site, and the members of the site, I think, are doing the same, and sort of we're feeding back into each other. So it's really
do you get personal contact with members?
Oh yeah, all the time. I have my entire wall of my office is covered in postcards from all over the world. That's what I use for wallpaper.
All over the world.
Yeah, all over the world, every country. We got members in little places like Fiji, all over Russia, everywhere.
That is amazing, Shannon. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thanks.
I'm fascinated. I'll tell you, I probably would normally ever get maybe a small tattoo, but I'm still fascinated nonetheless, and I want to share your site with everyone else. So again, tell us your website.
It's bmezine.com. That's bmezine.com.